This is a war. Do you think Hamas needs to be destroyed? This is the question.
Yes.
You do?
Yes. So how
do we get out with a ceasefire?
All right. So Hamas needs to be destroyed because they are a terrorist organization.
Well, I had a different question, but it struck me that in the first segment you used the term woke, and you said that woke is what was sort of ruining everything. And I know that you're...
No, I didn't say ruining everything. I said that's why Trump could get reelected.
That's why Trump could get reelected.
Sonny Hostin just can't seem to stay out of controversy, and her ongoing feud with Bill Maher has only added fuel to the fire. Ever since Maher's last fiery appearance on The View, where he verbally dismantled Hostin's arguments, tensions between the two have been anything but subtle. This time, their ideological clash reignited after Hostin made a polarizing remark about Donald Trump's recent presidential victory, claiming his win was driven largely by uneducated white women. The comments sparked outrage and widespread debate, with critics accusing Hostin of promoting divisive narratives often seen in progressive media. Citing demographic data, Hostin noted that while 92% of black women supported Vice President Kamala Harris, about 52% of white women, particularly those without college degrees, voted for Trump.
Percent of black women voted for the vice president. You have Latinas in the 70 percentile voting for the vice president. What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump, uneducated white women.
But Hostin didn't stop there. She also brought Latino men into the conversation, pointing to their growing support for Trump and framing it as part of a broader cultural resentment narrative. Her tone suggested that Trump voters were somehow united by shared bitterness and bad decisions. As expected, the internet erupted in backlash, forcing Hostin to clarify that she was merely referencing polling data. Yet her defense, dressing up the phrase uneducated white women with charts and statistics, did little to soften the blow. Spoiler, it only made things worse.
White women like being called uneducated white women. I think the economy matters, national security matters. But when you put people in these boxes, I think that's a takeaway from this, right?
Critics argue that Hostin's rhetoric, often viewed as elitist, risks alienating moderate voters and reinforcing the perception that progressive movements are increasingly out of touch with everyday Americans. Her remarks also highlight a hallmark of so-called woke culture, the tendency to interpret election results through the lens of identity politics rather than genuine policy or ideological debate. While this approach may resonate with parts of the progressive base, it oversimplifies the complex motivations that drive voter behavior. By reducing Trump's victory to a critique of uneducated white women, Hostin turned a nuanced political outcome into a demographic soundbite, a move that quickly drew backlash from both conservatives and centrists. And that's exactly when her longtime nemesis, Bill Maher, decided to step in.
Ask ChatGPT, are there any similarities between today's woke revolution and Chairman Mao's cultural revolution of the 1960s? And it wrote back, how long do you have?
Set the tone with his trademark mix of sarcasm and sting. Taking direct aim at Hostin and her woke brigade, he quipped that if they truly wanted a revolution, they should start by looking in the mirror, instead of constantly blaming uneducated white women, cultural resentment, or secret Trump-loving Latino men. Maher urged them to try a little self-reflection, and honestly, he might have a point. If every political loss is blamed on some external boogeyman, how can anyone ever learn, adapt, or evolve? As Maher noted, maybe it's time to take a page from the Democrats' own playbook, because whether anyone likes it or not, Trump's unexpected victory caught nearly everyone off guard.
Like in every demographic. The exit poll said he grabbed 52% of white women. He also got their votes.
Maher's message struck a chord because it pinpointed what many see as the core weakness of the woke movement: its unwillingness to consider that its own messaging might be part of the problem. Hostin's remarks about uneducated white women voting for Trump didn't land as thoughtful social analysis. They came across as condescending and dismissive toward a huge segment of voters. That kind of rhetoric doesn't persuade, it alienates. Ever the provocateur, Maher wasn't about to let that slide. By urging the progressive crowd to practice a little introspection, he challenged them to ask whether their tone and tactics might actually be driving people away, something Trump and his team clearly capitalized on to swing the election in their favor.
The facts. It's just the facts. Trump won all the swings, all 7. I mean, he ran the table. Trump won so big. Today he called the Secretary of State in Georgia and he asked him to lose him 11,000.
Elections, at their core, are battles for hearts and minds, and if your message fails to connect with the people, you can't be shocked when the ballots don't fall in your favor. Maher's point was straightforward. Instead of blaming voters for not seeing the light, maybe it's time to rethink how that light is being shown. In a deeply polarized era, the real winners are those who can communicate beyond their base and reach across divides. Until the woke crowd swaps their echo chambers for messages that genuinely resonate with everyday Americans. Maher's critique will keep hitting home. As for Hostin, her comments about Trump voters only underscored her disconnect from the broader electorate. A misstep Maher was quick to highlight with his signature wit. Interestingly, he wasn't the only one to call her out. Another outspoken critic with a long and thorny history with Hostin, Meghan McCain, soon joined the conversation.
Look at me that way. I speak for conservatives on this show. I mean, I know what they're thinking. No, but you look like I'm saying something inaccurate.
No,
not you.
I'm listening to you.
Meghan McCain didn't just criticize Sunny Hostin for her uneducated white women remark, she went full scorched earth. Taking to Twitter, McCain blasted The View, calling it a radical, progressive insane asylum. She doubled down in another post, writing, respectfully, please stop sending me clips. From The View, it's a radical progressive insane asylum, that's why I left years. Ago her blunt critique captured a broader frustration with what she sees as the show's sharp tilt toward hyper-progressive ideology, where opposing opinions are about as welcome as pineapple on pizza.
You're angry. I get it that you're angry that Trump's president, like a lot of people
I'm angry
are.
about every single thing he's doing.
I don't think yelling at me is gonna fix the problem.
McCain's remarks tapped into a broader debate about woke culture, one that, in her view, prioritizes ideological purity over genuine dialogue. She argues that The View has become a prime example of this trend, where hosts seem more interested in outwoking each other than engaging in balanced, thoughtful discussion. According to McCain, the show has strayed from its original mission of showcasing diverse perspectives and instead morphed into a platform that pushes a single progressive narrative. This, she claims, alienates not just conservatives but also moderates who crave real debate. Her comments echo a growing concern that in its zeal to address social issues, woke culture has built echo chambers where dissent is dismissed and rigidity reigns supreme. In McCain's eyes, neither The View nor Sunny Hostin is doing the left any favors with their brand of performative progressivism. And this wasn't the first time Hostin stirred controversy. Just weeks earlier, she made headlines by declaring that the presidential bar had been set so low that it practically paved the way for Donald Trump's rise.
I hear about running for political office in the future, and some people have said that they could see you running for president. Would you do that? You think you qualify to run for president? I mean, the bar is pretty low anyway.
While provocative, Hostin's statement crumbles under closer scrutiny and perfectly illustrates the broader pattern of the woke crowd grasping for shallow explanations to rationalize Trump's victory. Her claim suggests that Trump's success stemmed from a lowered presidential bar, rather than from genuine voter sentiment or widespread frustration with the political establishment. This oversimplified view erases the reality that millions of Americans were drawn to Trump's outsider appeal, his blunt rejection of political norms, and his ability to tap into the anger and disillusionment many felt toward Washington elites. Even more troubling, Hostin's argument trivializes the democratic process itself, implying that voters made their choice because standards had somehow slipped. Rather than acknowledging the complex web of issues behind the outcome, factors like economic anxiety, political fatigue, and deep cultural divides played critical roles in shaping that election. Her take also exposes a clear double standard. Would she make the same argument if a candidate she supported had won under similar circumstances? Unlikely. Thankfully, her comment didn't go unchallenged, as Whoopi Goldberg quickly stepped in, urging her to clarify. But even then, Hostin stood her ground.
Rephrase that.
I mean, I just think that the bar is really low because Trump really had no political experience and went from 0 to 100, right? He didn't start the city council and stuff like that. So the bar is low. Anyone can run.
Reality. Hostin's claim reflects a broader pattern within the woke crowd, a tendency to treat Trump's presidency not as a wake-up call, but as an aberration to be rationalized away. This mindset stifles genuine self-reflection in progressive circles and further distances the very voters they need to reach. Instead of dismissing Trump's victory as a symptom of lowered standards, progressives might do well to examine how their own messaging, policies, and often condescending attitude toward dissenting voices helped fuel his rise in the first place. Bill Maher wasted no time dismantling Hostin's argument, pointing out that Trump didn't win because the bar was lowered. He won because his campaign connected with more voters through sharper, clearer, and more relatable messaging, while Democrats struggled to communicate a vision that truly resonated.
These eye-popping numbers. Trump has a 30-point edge with registered voters on the question of which candidate would handle immigration and border security better. Trump has a 23-point edge among Latino voters. You're not even getting the people you're supposedly pandering to.
Maher stressed that Trump's success had little to do with lowered standards, as Hostin suggested, and everything to do with his ability to channel the frustrations of everyday Americans. His messaging, though divisive to some, resonated deeply with voters who felt ignored or dismissed by the political elite. Trump's appeal came from his willingness to speak directly about issues like economic stagnation, border security, and cultural change in a way that felt blunt, relatable, and, above all, authentic. Whether that authenticity was genuine or simply perceived didn't matter. It set him apart from the polished but disconnected rhetoric of traditional politicians, by reducing his victory to a fluke or a sign of lowered expectations. The woke left overlooks the real, nuanced reasons behind his broad support. Maher's critique served as a sharp reminder that underestimating Trump's strategy in connection with voters only deepens the divide between progressives and the Americans they claim to represent. And with that, Maher had one final piece of advice for Sunny Hostin and her far-left peers.
The usual suspects on the far left, that the saying is, when you're in a hole, stop digging. You just lost a crazy contest to an actual crazy person. What a shocker that the people who see everything through the lens of race and sex see their election loss as a result of racism and sexism.
Bill Maher quipped that identity politics cost Democrats the presidential election. In his view, the party's obsession with race, gender, and every micro-category in between left many Americans feeling excluded, as if they didn't qualify for the Democratic in-group. Meanwhile, the real issues that keep voters up at night, like paying bills, keeping jobs, and affording health care, were treated as afterthoughts. Maher joked that instead of crafting policies for the majority, Democrats practically handed Trump the blueprint for winning over frustrated, overlooked voters. It's like they threw a party but only invited people who could check at least 3 diversity boxes. He said with a smirk, by prioritizing identity over unity, the left managed to drive moderate and working-class voters straight into Trump's arms. Voters who, despite his flaws, believed he was at least listening to them. Still, Hostin and her fellow progressives refused to grasp these fundamental realities, choosing instead to chalk up Trump's victory to luck. But trust Maher, he wasn't about to let that slide. And this wasn't their first clash either. Who could forget that fiery View interview that had everyone talking?
Question. But it struck me that in the first segment you used the term woke, and you said that woke is what was sort of ruining everything. And I know that you're...
No, I didn't say ruining everything. I said that's why Trump could get reelected.
That's why Trump could get reelected.
It was a fiery showdown, and Sunny Hostin walked away completely scorched. From the very start, she struggled to handle the intensity Bill Maher brought to the table. Hostin tried to twist his words and corner him with accusations. A classic woke debate tactic. But Maher saw it coming a mile away. With razor-sharp wit and calm precision, he dodged every trap she set, flipping the conversation on its head. One by one, he dismantled her talking points, exposing the logical holes in her arguments and the contradictions in the woke narrative she tried to defend. His responses, laced with humor and just the right amount of sting, turned the exchange into more than a debate. It was a masterclass in dismantling performative outrage. By the time it was over, Hostin wasn't just out-argued, she was visibly scrambling for footing. While Maher walked away with the audience firmly in his corner.
It's been, in my view, co-opted by the right and weaponized and bastardized. And so I was surprised to hear you use the term, because historically, as you know, because I think you're quite brilliant, that woke is a word used by the Black community to note that we must be aware of social injustices.
Viewers were stunned to see Sunny Hostin so rattled by the mere mention of the word woke. This is the same Hostin known for her sharp tongue and unapologetic, takes the one who once took a personal jab at Alyssa Farah Griffin by calling her childless during a heated on-air exchange, yet here she was, visibly offended over a single word. The irony wasn't lost on anyone.